use his gifts, he's going to squander them. For me, it's infuriating. If I allow myself to just think about it too much, it just makes me sick. Because he'd be happier too. Think about all the people in this world. Like he's got stories he could tell. He could like I derive so much meaning and purpose and joy from talking to you guys all the time, helping people. Not just you guys, everywhere I go. Just wearing this hat, like I make people smile just wandering around and just yeah, I know a bunch of people at the grocery store nearby. A lot of them are foreigners because it's not the kind of job you get if you have a lot of connections, right? It's the kind of thing that it's like the job that you can get if you can't get anything better, right? But I just, I don't think about it that way. I've recently learned that that's the way that a lot of people think about these people. But for me, I'm just smiling and just saying hello and, just, actually seeing them. Because it seems like now 90, 95, maybe 99% of the people that check out from this grocery store don't even look the people in the eye that are actually working there. I'm only just now becoming aware of this. Boy, it's like so weird. Like they're like not actually people. Like the people are so consumed with all the bullshit in their own head and whatever it is that they think is important, whatever rock it is they're trying to convince everybody that they're king of, that they can't see the people that are right fucking in front of them. It's infuriating if I just sit around thinking about it. So anyway, I stopped calling Doug. Although I might send him this recording just to kick him in the balls one last time as he's reading book number 35. Hello, Doug. This one's for you, Doug. It's out of love. You still got time. For now. Might send it to Garrett, too. He didn't even have his Oktoberfest party this past year. I gave him a lot of shit during his last party. That might be one reason why. Although I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have been so hard on him. I was really hard on him. He's got one kid, Benjamin. Flutter Boy. Flutter Boy, he was one of the first students in Weequel School. Kid loved me. Every time I went over there, he would light up. Because I would see him, just like I'd see these people working at the grocery store. And Garrett would ask me something about, like, my house. Or something. Like, that was the most annoying thing. We get this new house, and Garrett would be like, how do you like the new house? As though it changed something. And it's like, it's a house. And then I'd turn to his son and be like, dude, what's up? To see his kid. And then he would bring up a game that he was playing. And I'd be like, tell me more about the game. And then Garrett would kind of roll his eyes because his kid's talking about video games. And of course, parents don't want their kids playing video games. They want their kids to, do important things that they want them to do. But, if somebody's excited about something, and he was often excited about the games that he was playing, you don't just sit around judging people. You try to figure out what excites. I would ask him, well, what is it about the game that excites him? You can have some fascinating conversations with people when you actually find out what's going on underneath. Somebody asked me like what I was doing today. I'm like, oh yeah, I was playing a video game, Elden Ring. They'll just look at me and roll their eyes. Look at this 40-year-old man. But if they actually ask me about it, I might tell them something about how I like to just sit and just look at this like lo-fi kind of vibe that it's got when you just sit there and like look into the distance at this three-dimensional piece of artwork that is the highest grossing project ever created. Video games have overtaken movies and TV shows as industries combined. And this game was the highest profit-making project ever 2 years in a row, 2021, 2022, right? There's a reason why. I'm looking at it. It's like I could sit on just about any little mountaintop, little precipice here, there, all over this thing, and look into the distance and go, holy shit, this is so beautiful. And that's what I would find when I would talk to Garrett's son about whatever he was into. That when I could peel back the layer and find out what it was that was driving it didn't matter what the surface level answer was. It's the why behind it. And now I see Benjamin walking 10 feet in front of his mother because he doesn't even want to be seen standing next to her because his parents were just constantly trying to manipulate him and get him to do shit that they thought was important. He turns 13, he's Jewish, he has a bar mitzvah, it's a big deal. He's supposed to become a man when he's 13. And the whole speech was just like a woke propaganda speech that his mom wrote. It was a bunch of stuff that you could hear coming out of like the left-wing party as though he's just like on some MSNBC progressive left-wing propaganda machine. And it's like he didn't write this shit. This is his mom and her political, agenda, as though her job is to try to fight Donald Trump. She's just like obsessed with politics to the point that she can't even connect with her one kid. And I'm watching this play out in slow motion. So yeah, every time I go to your house, Garrett, I was talking to your kid because somebody's got to. Might send this to him too. Maybe it'll help you guys reconnect. Garrett and Doug. I spent so much time with these guys during the pandemic. So yeah, Jordan, meaningful relationships require shared goals. And they didn't have one with their son. Garrett and Doug didn't have one with each other. And a lot of married couples fall apart because they don't have shared goals either. They just segment everything. They just segregate everything. It's like segregation. Segregation's bad. It's bad for people based on colors, and it's bad for marriages based on money and kids and all these other things. You just like segregate everything, just separate everything. You got your profile for who you want the world, what rock you're on top of for your professional life. You convince everybody that you're king of the rock on LinkedIn for that. When it comes to all the, family relationship stuff, you got your Facebook and your Instagram to convince everybody that you're king of the rock for that. And you're the smartest person and you got all the witty things and you figured it all out. So you got your tweet thread to show people you're king of the rock on that on X. And you got and it's just this constant mimetic bullshit machine. And who gets left behind? The kids. And they're watching it. They're seeing it. And they're falling into it. Because it's everywhere. And that's what they're hardwired to do. Look at all the big people. What are they doing? What do they value? Screens, alcohol, looking good. Kids are happier than the adults. Guess what? Kids don't give a shit about any of that stuff. That's not a coincidence. Sorry. Still got. There's a lot of kids that I got to know, and it hurts. That kid Flutterboy, Benjamin, he woke up one time at 4:30 in the morning while his family was vacationing in California so he could learn how to build apps with Sumi when she was 10. That's why we called him Flutterboy. And he was so excited to learn. He was just happy to be alive. And that last Oktoberfest that Garrett had, His son didn't even leave the basement. He was downstairs, hiding from it, desperately trying to play a game that he could understand. Minecraft. At least there, the cause-effect relationship between things actually kind of makes sense. He can see it coming. He can predict it. That's why the anxiety goes down when these kids play these games. Because when they play the game of life, it doesn't seem to matter what they do. Something happens they don't expect that causes them to feel miserable, and they don't understand. Because their parents certainly don't know how to play the fucking game. They're not happy. Their marriages are falling apart. They're miserable. Or they're not because they've got some bullshit narrative in their head that if I just read enough fantasy novels, I can wait out the clock. This is wisdom that's been hard fought, man. And I went around telling people that I work for my daughter, and I still do. And I just love that because it's like, holy shit. Oh my God. I am so. Sume just started to like slowly back away from Weequal app starting a year and a half ago. And I didn't really understand why fully. I think I didn't fully get it until yesterday. And every now and then I'd be worried. I'd be like, how much does she care about this? Because she's not as engaged. And she's like, Dad, that's not it. Don't worry about it. That's not it. And yesterday we came together, and it was like, Dad, this is a summary. This isn't what she said, but this is in summary, as best as I can understand it. Because again, it's just tough. Like she just is at a different level than me. She's at a higher level or understanding of this. I definitely recommend watching that Dan Coe YouTube video that I shared. But basically, she realized a year and a half ago that whatever solution we come up with to save the world, it's got to be more than the app. The app isn't going to be enough, and she knew that well enough to know that she just went to solving that problem, knowing that I was going to keep leading the charge on solving this one, because like it didn't really. Just like this conversation, 90% of the time we're not talking about the app, right? Um, it's just not that complicated. Like debugging this thing, like it's not, that's not the problem, you know. Like if an alien were to come down to planet Earth and look at all these different social accounts and look at the way that humans talk about them, the aliens would be utterly confused because 90% of what's in these apps is identical. They all allow you to direct message. They all have some profile picture, a bio, a banner. Like, they're like basically the fucking same thing with just like little tweaks. With this is the way the aliens would look at this and they'd be like, these humans are very strange. They're like, like we're talking about it like one rock is so different than another rock because it's shaped slightly differently, right? They all store content. They all have home screens that you scroll that are designed to give you what you want to see. Right? It's like all these large language models, the same thing. They all basically scrape the same shit. Library of Congress. Like, and then they're like, oh no, Grok is so much better than this. Like, really? It's not about that. I mean, we want to, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No, yeah. Thank you for bringing. Yeah, I can go on forever. I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and try to get more focus on it. So basically, Well, part of it is uncovering. Well, the one body problem is really really important. Like so so part of what Sume perceives that we have a hard time perceiving, probably me better than you guys, but it's like really really tough. Is it relates to this one body problem. So conceptually, you, me, everybody, we have to live in this 16 bit per second reality. Okay, that's all consciousness is. But it's such a tiny fragment of the brain power that's going on in your head. And she just has a much deeper alignment with her subconscious. And so the kinds of things that her subconscious is fostering into her perception is just dramatically more useful and related to uh, much more clearly defined goals that are more fundamental and true as opposed to being like the rocks of the mimetic game. I have a hard time articulating it myself because I'm not Sume and I'm not up there, right? That's part of that flow pyramid. You can't look up, you can only look down. That's why Sume could look at me and my wife like running into a wall over and over again and just patiently try to walk, like talk us through being able to navigate how to walk around the wall. We looked like we were retards to Sume because she can look down and see us running into this wall. See? It's meant to be belittling to me. Yeah, yeah. That's like me talking about Garrett and Doug running into this wall. Be like, yeah, so you're in. So the vast majority of your relationship has consisted of brewing beer together with, nothing else behind it, and you guys think that this relationship is going to continue after Doug moves. To me, that's like running into a wall like this. I'm gonna watch this train wreck coming in slow motion. Same thing with like Flutterboy, right? It's like this wasn't hard for me to forecast, right? That's like Sume looking at me and my wife with a marital struggle, right? She has very profound clarity. And so one should expect that as one has more clarity, that the things that are really important to people that are lower on that slow hierarchy are less and less important the higher you go in that hierarchy. That kind of makes sense, right? If we were to conceptualize the omnifinity of like God, like how important is this app from the perception of God? Obviously, we can't perceive that. But what we could try to we would guess that whatever we think is important, like look at a child. Like you take away a lollipop from a 5-year-old, they're like, Wah! Like yeah, that lollipop's really important, right? So the same kind of thing you can extrapolate from that and just recognize that I was seeing how important this app was, and she was like, "It is important, Dad, but it's important as a piece in the puzzle. It's solving important things like we inevitably are going to need a communication tool for a digital community where we actually own the data. Same as we're going to need an agent, we're going to need an AI tool that actually understands our paradigm and how we're framing life instead of whatever random shit is in people's heads because mimetic behavior is so prevalent. It's like Labubu's were really important to like millions of people as of a month ago, and nobody even knew what a fucking Labubu was 2 years ago. Like it's just like that. Like if you want to see mimetic theory at its finest, Labubu's, you know, right? So we're gonna need these things, but they're pieces in the puzzle. It's not the end all be all. And I was placing a lot of emphasis on the app because for me, this is kind of how for me, I see it. I see more clearly why the app is so important. And Sume sees that too, but she just sees so much more than I do. Mm. Well, so like some of the things that are in this for and weak will, I think it helps if I can define weak will uh, hopefully like a little bit more clearly. So Weequal fundamentally started out as a marriage blog, East-West Equilibrium. You guys know that. It was like a way for me to avoid finding compromise with my wife. And Boya knows I don't like that word. Compromise means you didn't sit down and listen to each other enough to actually get the data to see the third way. It isn't my way or your way, there's a better way. It's not you're right or I'm right. It's that you're both right. It's like Sume saying, "Dad, you're not wrong about the app. It's just that that's not everything. There's more." It's like that. See? See how it's still related? Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, part of it, so I can keep going. All right, so here's another piece of it. She's like, um, in order for so I have two children, and Isla is the opposite of Sume temperamentally, and according to the Myers-Briggs. Okay, Isla is somebody that I've been working all year to better understand. That's been my priority. I think I've told you guys that I made Isla my guru, right? I've been a lot of my behaviors, like why am I sitting here looking at Sakuri and Elden Ring? I've got a man cave with stuffies in it. I'm wearing a pillow on my head. Like I'm doing things that I've never acted like this before, right? Right, Mboya? What was I doing? I was in front of a computer writing. I wrote 10, 20 pages a day. I was on Zoom calls with people around the world, whoever was joining the platform, meeting this, that, and the other. I was just like, I was so conscious dominant. I wasn't aware, I wasn't even trying to build subconscious alignment because I wasn't aware of that as a model for framing existence. And I was missing Isla because Isla's subconscious dominant. And so Isla and I just weren't anywhere close to being what we could be, but I wasn't even aware of that. Sume was. I am uh I like routinely will break down in tears just being grateful for having Sume as a leader for me to serve, right? And Sume, when she engages with Isla, like you see some of this in this podcast, but the nature of their relationship together, she has been co-raising Isla. Um, and she's guiding Isla. She was realizing that Isla is the most important thing that she should be focusing on because Isla, whatever Sume is, Isla is something that's different, and it's not better, worse. It's not along a dimension like that. It's more like that they form like an equilibrium, kind of like my wife and I do. So my wife is like the opposite of me temperamentally, and I'm just 10 times the person when I'm working with and collaborating with and trying to align my life in service with my wife. Okay. Sume has that with Isla. And it's really beautiful. And like to give you an example of this, the hat would be like one example. But the hat took nothing. Okay. Like we're selling hats. These are $100 products. And we're selling them like hotcakes. I don't know how many sales we have. But again, I'm not really involved other than being the male model. Okay, that's my job. Okay. But this is something that they put together like breathing for fun that took no effort. Okay? And yet this one project to other people when they see it, they think that this is like the main thing. They just assume that mom and I are doing. But really, Sume and Isla piece this together as like an afterthought. in terms of effort and motivation, right? That's how hard it was for them to start selling $100 products and putting together a website and everything. It's like it just brings people joy everywhere we go, right? Without trying, Jordan. Right? That's kind of like, and that's Isla at 13. I think at one point I told Jordan that that Neo might be Isla. And I think that that's the wrong way of thinking about it because it's not so that's what I mean. It's like I was focused on the app, but Sume a year and a half ago she starts pulling back and she's like seeing Neo. It's like whatever challenge we're gonna face in terms of how we try to connect, collaborate, and create the solution to the mission of saving the world, Isla is going to be a huge part in being able to step in and for reasons and in ways that I can't explain in words, the tools of the conscious mind, she's going to be able to help us do it. You know, like I'm like, holy shit. And we just get little tastes of that in this podcast that they don't have to they don't cut anything out. They sit down and start talking, and then my wife and I watch this and our jaws drop, and then my wife starts plugging this stuff into an AI agent. Because relative to she and I, our kids are just running circles around us. So yeah, you and me both, man. I think us dudes, also like women have this corpus callosum that connects the two halves of their brain, and it's like 5 times thicker than men. You know, like I've been learning a lot about men. Like Sume's been helping me understand the male brain. Okay, that's where we're at here in terms of Sume versus me in terms of clarity. All right, she's helping me understand. And one of the things that she was pointing out remember what I was telling you this like 1 or 2 days ago. This idea of you were like, Joe, let's fucking go. All right. I don't care about money. I don't care about fame. I'm bought, sold. Let's fucking do it. I'm ready to go. You know, I'm just ready to die for the cause. Like that kind of mentality is the same one that I'm hearing resonate in this Dan Carlin story about World War II and the way that the Marines attacked the beaches. You know, fighting the Japanese. Like the Japanese did some just really fucked up shit, man, everywhere. Like it was horrible. The rape of Nanking. I mean, there's a reason why. When I first met my wife, we were visiting a museum, and there was a section in there like on ancient Japanese culture. We walk in there. I've never heard my wife, to this day, I've never heard her talk this way. It was the way she said it. It wasn't the words. It was the way she said it. You got to imagine this sweet little Chinese lady. She's like, they just stole all this from China, like these artifacts. She was angry. There was a fury that like scared me, and we just left that part of the museum. The Japanese people murdered millions of Chinese people and raped them and did the most horrific things. They would cut off the soldiers of Chinese men and make them eat them as like a way of trying to make their soldiers even more inhumane. Like that's how bad it was. And these Marines, it's yeah, you're not going to read about this in the books or see it in the movies because the movies wouldn't sell tickets. Nobody wants to see this stuff. So after Pearl Harbor, you've got these soldiers that are signing up for war, and they're attacking. They're trying to take these beaches, but it's like, and they would find other Marines where the Japanese people just started doing the same things. And I found out later, like I was listening to this, I found out the reason why these soldiers were doing it. It wasn't because the Japanese people and the soldiers wanted to do it. their commanders were forcing their soldiers to do the most horrific things they could imagine to the Marines that they would find, the US soldiers, so that the Japanese soldiers would be terrified of being captured by the Americans. That's why the Japanese were doing things like committing suicide, and like you guys have heard about like they're kind of famous for basically committing suicide in service of the Japanese cause during World War II. They would take their airplanes, fill them up with dynamite, and just fly the plane into the fucking aircraft carrier. It was called what was it called? Like it was the kamikazes. It was like, holy shit! Like, why were they doing? I didn't know until like a week ago. I was listening to Dan Carlin talk about this, and he's like, it wasn't because the Japanese soldiers just hated Chinese people and Americans so much. It was because it was a strategy on the part at the highest level. The commanders were saying, if we force our soldiers to do these atrocities, they'll be so terrified that they'll never surrender. Because, of course, they will be terrified of having that be done to them. Right? See that? See the logic? Isn't that just sick? The logic of that is sick, but it actually checks out. That's why the Japanese were able to even attempt to take on a superpower as powerful as the United States. It was because they never surrendered. They practically never surrendered. Whole battles would happen where the casualty rate, like usually what happens with a battle is you'll have like, let's say that there's like 10,000 Japanese soldiers, 10,000 soldiers on one side, 10,000 soldiers on the other side. One side beats the other side. What you find is like maybe 1,000 people die, or 10% from combat, if it's like really bloody. And then there's like twice as many wounded, right? Because it's like it's easier to get wounded than die. If you're just like firing bullets, somebody's bullet hits the arm, leg, but you don't die, right? So more people get wounded than die. And then you might have like, another 30% might like desert and run away. And then you might have like half of them surrender. With the Japanese, like 97% of them would die because either they would die fighting, or they would just fucking blow themselves up with a grenade, or take their like katana and just jam it through their heart. It was just insane. The Marines would show up, they'd be attacking some island, and even the citizens, the Japanese women, would take their own children and throw them off cliffs and then jump off themselves while looking at the Marines that were coming to attack the beach. The American tanks wouldn't even come into some place because the tank drivers would refuse to drive up on the beaches because they were covered in dead bodies by the time they would show up, from all the women and children. Because they were so terrified of what the American soldiers would do. All that propaganda, all in service of trying to just win the war like that, right? So Jordan, there is a peace inside of you. Men have it in them. Now that's only atrocious now because we didn't live 20,000 years ago. This was standard 20,000 years ago. Fascism was a fad 100 years ago, but guess what? Fascism was reality for everybody. In the dawn of consciousness, it was my people are better than your people deserve to die. They're nothing but threats to my women and children. I will do anything to protect them. That's inside of you because you are a man. You are compelled to fight for something that you believe in, and you will be willing to die for it because that is what you are genetically and culturally evolved to do. So it's my job to look out for you, make sure that we actually make money and stuff, because we can be all like, ugh, we can just be so riled up around this, nothing else matters, even though other things do matter. So we men need to be careful. Now, Sume is helping me understand this stuff, okay? Because, I'm the one man in the family, and, I would behave in ways that would be a little bit like, whoa. Like, why do men die on average 3 years earlier than women, even before, modern technology? Like, it was just women are smaller and more vulnerable, but they're also, I think it's easier for them to see reality than men. Men are expendable. You get that, right? Like if you have a tribe of men and women, let's say you got a tribe, there's 100 people, 50 men, 50 women, and if you want that tribe to survive and thrive, well, nearly all the men could die in a fight, but as long as there's like a few left to have sex with the remaining women, then you can repopulate the tribe, right? You can't have that go the other way around. Okay, the men are the ones that are expendable. That doesn't mean that we can't have great clarity. It just means, well, it starts with understanding who we are. We have to kind of accept that the way that we tend to approach things as men can sometimes be self-defeating. Like you don't want to, we don't need to worry about falling victim to what destroyed the Japanese. I mean, fuck, like that's why we ended up needing to use those nukes. Like if you ever have a debate with somebody about the Americans ever being the first and the last country to drop nukes on a foreign country during a war and be like, well, they shouldn't have done that. Well, have them listen to Dan Carlin's discussion about what actually happened in the Pacific during World War II. Like the country of Japan would have committed mass suicide if we had tried invading the homeland. Either like they were training the kids in school to fight the American soldiers when they were going to come using bamboo spears, okay? Across the entire fucking island. That's why we dropped the two atomic bombs. We're like, this is crazy. This is insane. Like, we need to somehow get these people to stop killing themselves. Because the propaganda had brainwashed the people into being so terrified. See what I mean? It's crazy. Like, you're not going to hear this story in the movies. Nobody wants to hear this story. But we're all capable of that. We all have it inside of us. In fact, that was default mode 20,000 years ago. So yeah, I'm very grateful that we got three ladies up there leading. It's not a surprise to me either that Priyanka has been so powerful in terms of helping this fellowship. Is Priyanka there? Well, tell her thank you from me. Tell her that she should hear that part without Adi hearing that part. I don't. Is Adi on? I guess he probably already heard it. I didn't check. Oh, probably because I was saying things that were so horrific. Oops. See what I mean? That one track mind, Jordan. You know, it's easy for me to kind of lose perspective a little bit and to kind of get so in the zone. I forgot there was like a young person on the call. Eesh, damn it. Clarity, you know, clarity. That's also why we need each other. Humans were not. There's nothing in known history and understanding of humans that should lead us to believe that we're somehow supposed to not go fucking insane thinking about humans as individuals. There's a reason why solitary confinement is considered a form of torture. And Boya, can you please pass on an apology to to Priyanka and Adi for me just kind of like going off? Thanks. Not right now. Just I'll do it too. But I think it's helpful for her to know that I was like sharing it with you guys. Um, yeah, I mean, this is part of the struggle, Abhinav, Jordan. You know, like we became conscious 70,000 years ago, and ever since then, we've just been desperate for clarity. It's almost cruel, you know, because like we don't get to experience what it's like to be a deer or a raccoon or a squirrel, but you can kind of see it a little bit in their eyes. They're constantly anxious. You ever been like walking along and you just there's some animal that didn't know you were there, but as soon as it became aware of you, how quickly it's just like, oh, they live in a constant state of that. And that was the state of our ancestors when they first became conscious. Think about that. No science, no reason, no writing, no sophisticated language. So they've got nobody to even communicate that with. And then a teeny tiny spark inside their minds that represents 1 millionth of your processing power became self aware. In that existence of constant anxiety, to survive, to live, to continue through your tribe was everything, everything, every fucking thing. The entire world around you is full of bullshit goals trying to take you away from the thing that you evolved over millions of fucking years to care about. Fellowship, yeah, fellowship. You live in a world of people obsessed with rocks, and they're taking drugs, and they're full of anxiety, and they're confused, they're terrified, and almost all of them end up having midlife crises or later on a survey of the regrets of the dying, wondering, what the fuck was I thinking the whole time? That was the first time I saw Isla. You remember Brandon Bergman from Boya? Were you around then? He's Dr. Brandon Bergman, Harvard professor. Antigone was on that one. Harvard professor, people. Do you hear that? Harvard. King of the Rock over here. We're really important. Harvard professor comes to Weequel school. Isla's like 8. She wrote a project called The Regrets of the Dying. First of all, it should probably be shocking to you, Jordan Abhinav, like that, like almost everybody that is surveyed towards the end of their life because of a terminal illness or just because they're really old, that they look back and they willingly admit that their goal function was fucked up almost the entire time. Okay? That's bad. All right? If you survey old people in modern day America recently, this isn't that you wouldn't find this to be true anywhere else in time and space. Okay? This is just I'm just talking about in the developed world where we presumably have all the things that people want because we've got all this money and shit we bought from China, right? So these people, when surveyed about their lives, that the vast majority of them are basically in one way, shape, or form saying, I wish I had spent more time actually thinking about the people that actually mattered the whole time and actually trying to better understand who I am and how I could pursue meaningful goals. Because the things that I did, when I look back, a lot of the time, it was just pointless bullshit. That's what they're saying. The oldest, wisest people that are coming to the end of their lives in America will freely admit to any young person that asks, but of course the young people don't ask, just like Doug won't stop reading those fucking fantasy novels. Not that I'm against fantasy novels, mind you. Insert fingers into ears. La 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 la. So Isla's watching this TED talk by somebody who like did all these surveys of these people that were getting really old and like just kind of facing the end. And it was called like Regrets of the Dying. That's what her project was about. And it was the first time, I'll never forget it, first time that she was writing an essay with a level of motivation, just profound, powerful. Nobody could get in her way. She just kept rewatching sections of it. That's how I knew. She didn't just sit down to watch the TED talk. I think it was TED. And then she would hear something, and then she would rewind it back and watch it again. And then rewatch that section again, watch it again. And then she would sit down and she would be like, typing out her notes. She was 8, right? And not like Sume. She's subconscious dominant, totally different temperament, right? So her way, like Sume kind of had a natural temperament for like essay writing and conscious focus and that kind of thing. Not Isla, right? It was fascinating to watch Isla become so moved by something that she was learning that she couldn't, it wasn't about getting the project done for her anymore. That was the moment when it flipped. You could not have pulled her away from that project. That's the way I feel about what we're doing. So yeah, Jordan, these families don't know. You should just assume that the people that we're going to be engaging with don't know the first thing about why they're even doing what they're doing. But if we come right out and tell them that, they're going to be about as happy as Doug and Garrett when they get this recording. Yeah. Let's go, but let's do it in a way that our ladies, your mother and my wife, and like in a way that like we need to approach it where we're also getting good sleep and eating good food and like lots of hugs and like all these things that women do. We should do that with each other. We should share our emotions, like we need to learn from these ladies, guys. There's a reason why they live longer. They they're able to balance better. They have greater clarity. It's going to help us win. It's really going to help us win. We can bring that tenacity that's inside of us as men to fight. But if we're going to fight effectively, we have to fight for love. We have to fight with compassion. We have to really try to care deeply about these people that we're going to try to serve because they're in the dark and they don't even know. And if we don't do it, God help them. Because I don't know anybody else that can. If I did, I'd probably feel a little bit less pressure, but I don't know anyone. Not even Jordan Peterson and some of these folks. I think that they got pieces of it. Like Dan Coe, little pieces. but they're just not even close. So, practically speaking, some things. Is Abanov still there? Okay. That's fine because I was just going to repeat what I told him earlier, which is if he's able to just because a lot of this stuff is extremely heavy. It can be disorienting. So for Abhinav, I told Abhinav about our understanding in Boya, about um, my financial constraints and kind of like what I'm working within. He says that he's totally cool with it. He actually said that he's not worried about money right now. I think that Abhinav, um, I think it's just natural. Same thing with Verpadas. I think if anybody in India that I ever would have come in contact with would have for years just said they're struggling financially if they're talking to an American with money. I think it's just so embedded in the culture. But I think he's fine, and I think that Abhinav actually has the freedom to just not worry about that right now. I think that some of this stuff, some of like interestingly enough, like he was saying he's Buddhist, but he doesn't know anything about Buddhism. Like this is what Siddhartha Gautama did was like left the palace to go live in the mud so he could gain some clarity, right? You know. So I think Abhinav is actually starting to come out of it a little bit. So I think that he's going to be helpful. I think we should have some faith in Abhinav when it comes to banging out some of these bugs. Um, so I think what we're trying to do is have the app ready to go around the same time that we'd have this, not just the pitch deck ready, because I think we could have a draft of that even if there are some placeholders by the end of next week. Um, but yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Um, Jordan, I think that practice trusting yourself with this. Just go ahead and open up some Google Slides and just use your best judgment to put together a draft, even if it's just headers for slides. But we probably need a section on this, section on that. And this should be really easy for you to do as long as you're using an AI and you just explain what you're trying to do. Just say, like, I'm a consultant working with Weequal. We've got this pilot program. Like, literally just outline what it is that you're doing, and it'll tell you how to outline the slides. See what I mean? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't worry about it. Yeah, yeah. Don't put pressure on yourself. I know you're motivated. Just breathe. You know. Mm. Yeah, me too. Me too. Um, so yeah, I would definitely use our agent in Boya. You've got that account. Make sure that Jordan's got an ability to. There's actually a new thing in ChatGPT Pro where you can invite somebody to join a project now, right? Look into that. Make sure that you guys are using the same AI. Um, but this is good. Part of your training, Jordan, is learning how to integrate AI into your thinking process, not just your workflow, right? Um, so just outline literally what you're doing in the prompt, and it'll help you lay this out. Um, and because that way we can help you better during these calls. If we're able to just see this, it'll just help us to be able to support you, and you'll have no trouble whatsoever being able to have something that looks decent by the end of next week. No problem at all. So excited to share this with my friends Doug and Garrett. Fun. I love you guys, Doug and Garrett. I really do. I hope you guys can see the compassion in my heart. Sometimes I can come across as a real asshole, though. I think I'm just, I think I'm just still struggling with this PTSD from just not knowing. If you're just wandering around the world, engaging with people, not knowing what kind of suffering they're in, that's kind of where I was at, man. And boy, it knows. I just didn't know. Ah, I need to be more patient and kind. I need to be a gentleman, and I'm not nearly there yet. I'm really not. I'm still kind of bitter, I think a bit. I still have so much rage that just needs to settle down. Peace. Yeah, but I'm not going to be able to help my friends if I come across like a dick all the time. Not all the time, but you know, just the way that I come across sometimes, I can just not right. I need to do a better job. I need to stop cursing so much. I need to, at least I don't have to listen to Dax music on loop 5 hours a day, you know, just blaring in my ears. Like that's where I was at like 4 months ago. Uh, all right, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being part of my tribe. It's an honor and a privilege. It's the highest honor. It really is. It just fills me with so much pride. And I know you guys feel the same way. I don't even need you guys to say it. It just is so awesome. We are so ready. We are so ready. This is what I was waiting for the whole time with Patas and Boya. It was this feeling. Now we're ready. Like we're finally on the same page. You know? You feel it? It's cool. This is what our ancestors, quick aside, this is what our ancestors had by default. The anxiety and fear of threats to one's life all the time was the downside. The upside is that you were never alone. You were never alone because you lived and breathed and died next to the people in your tribe, and you never had to question who was there that mattered most. That's why being ostracized or banished was just a death sentence. It was just there, right? Heaven on earth means we get to have this feeling, but we don't have to live in constant anxiety and fear of being killed by the elements and God and just all the law of the jungle, you know, the fear that you see in the eyes of like a wild animal that you might startle on a walk like that. We get to have both. All right, gentlemen. Take care. Bye.